Welcome to the latest episode of Real Talk. On October 22nd, 1982, the third movie in the Halloween series was released. There were some things missing, though. No Laurie Strode, no Loomis, and no Michael Myers. The movie, unfortunately, was critically panned when it was released, but it became a cult classic over the years. Here to talk about the movie and the impact that it has made on people over the years is James B. Jones from the show that is already becoming a cult classic, Love on the Spectrum, which you can find on Netflix. So, James, welcome back to the show. I love it. Third time.
Hello. Yes, hello again, Rich. How are you doing today?
I am doing very well. So, off the air, it's right now. It's November 2nd, so right after Halloween, and we were talking about all the things you've been up to since last time you were on the show.
Yes.
And I think last time we talked, you said that you were going to see Rob Zombie and Alice Cooper. How was that concert?
Yes. Oh, excellent show, excellent show. And in fact, not only did I see the show, like shortly before, I think like a week or two, shortly before the concert, Alice Cooper's daughter, Calico Cooper, contacted me, and she said that she was a fan of Love on the Spectrum, and she noticed that she saw that I had announced that I would be attending the show, so she asked if I would like to meet her father and Mr. Zombie. So of course I said yes. I was thrilled. That was amazing. A chance like that I cannot say enough how amazing it was. That was practically like meeting Jesus or meeting Satan, I suppose, depending on how you look at it.
I love that. I got to hang out with you. You know all the cool people.
Yes. It's funny, actually. I was on a different podcast earlier today, and the host of that podcast said that she knows people too. She might be able to get me in to meet some people as well. So that's really something.
All right. Well, before we get into Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie, who are some of the people that she might get you to meet?
Well, I'm hoping to see Disturbed next year. They're coming by in March or April. I forget when, but Disturbed will be coming by again next year. And so the hostess of the other podcast I was on said, that she knows some people who theoretically might be able to meet the members of Disturbed. So of course I'm thinking of that, but I don't want to seem like I'm letting this go to my head. I don't want to like I don't want people to think that I'm getting arrogant, or I most certainly do not wish to appear as if I'm starting to feel entitled. I don't want to. I definitely don't want people to think that I'm getting a big ego from all this.
No, well, I want to say from what I'm seeing, it's the exact opposite. You are such an inspiration to so many people, and you're such a cool guy and such a great guy that people are watching you and contacting you. So you're not over there seeking to meet people because of your fame. Because of your fame, people want to meet you. So it's the exact opposite.
That's good.
Yeah, I love it. So let me tell you my experience. As I mentioned last time we were on the show together, I said I go to the Chiller Convention in New Jersey, and Alice Cooper was there a couple years ago, and the line, not exaggerating, was 3 floors. I said, I am not waiting in line to say, hi, how are you? Let me get a quick picture. I would love to meet him, but the line was way too long. So you had a chance to actually have a conversation with him and Rob. How were they?
Oh, they were both very nice. They were both very humble, soft-spoken, down to earth.
Yeah.
I mean, their stage personae are very out. They have very outrageous presences on the stage, but of course, off stage though, they were very pleasant people, very nice. I really enjoyed conversation. I didn't have much time. Obviously, I had to keep my conversation short, to like a minute or two, obviously, because there were tons of people meeting them. But it was very nice to meet them. And I was the only person who met both of them. Everybody else met more of the year. I'm the only person who met both, which is super cool, but they weren't out at the same time. I imagine that was a very deliberate choice that they were not out at the same time. I would have loved to have a picture with both of them, but that wasn't possible. Anyway, I got pictures with both of them. They're on my Instagram account. I got their autographs as well. I mean, apparently they weren't doing autographs, but I guess Calico Cooper just pulled some strings, asked him, probably had to make an exception. So yeah, I got Mr. Zombie and Mr. Cooper to autograph some of my albums. So very, very cool. And what else? So I decided I was not going to do the whole "we're not worthy" thing in front of Mr. Cooper, because he's probably sick and tired of people doing that. So instead, I did a deeper cut, though. I asked Mr. Cooper, "Are you aware that the name Massachusetts is of Native American origin?" Yes, so he was not, but he asked, was it me? I said, it means near the Great Hill. So, yes, because you know how in Wayne's World he said, did you know that Milwaukee is of Native American origin? So, yeah, I was doing a riff on that, you see.
I love that. That is such a deep cut. Did he even remember that? Did he know?
I hope he remembered what I was referencing. I didn't explain it, but I'm hoping he knew I'm hoping he understood the reference.
I love your knowledge of movies and music. I mean, you
Yes,
go
thank you.
so far back, and we're going to talk about Halloween 3 in a minute. But before we do that, I saw Alice Cooper years ago, probably in the late 80s, early 90s. And even then, he was older, but he still put on a great stage
Yes.
show. How was his stage show? Is he still doing the
Oh,
where he the head with the guillotine and everything like that?
um, I don't remember if he did the guillotine this time around or not, but he still did most. Let me see now. Let me see. He did a lot of this, many of the same songs, some new ones, like all the classics. Obviously, like No More Mr. Nice Guy, I'm 18.
I love it.
Obviously, the concluding song, of course, was his senior song, School's Out. But let me see now. He did Billion Dollar Babies, but there were just a few differences I noticed. Like this time around, when he did Billion Dollar Babies, he had somebody shoot the fake money out of a cannon rather than he himself throwing the money into the crowd. And
Yeah.
also, he did Poison and Black Widow and Feed My Frankenstein. That's still my favorite Alice Cooper song, Feed My Frankenstein. But this was my fifth time seeing Alice Cooper, so
Wow.
I'd seen four times before this, and um, the previous four times he did Feed My Frankenstein, he himself wore the Frankenstein monster costume, but not this time. This time around, they just probably had like an extra or a stagehand wearing the Frankenstein monster costume while he himself was still singing on the stage. Like, I don't know, maybe he just can't do it anymore. I'm not sure, but obviously, still love the show. I mean, Alice Cooper's, he might not be the first, but he was one of the first people to do elaborate stage shows. Yeah, not quite the first, but he was definitely one of the first to have a big elaborate show. So yes, and still enjoy it was still just as good as the last several times.
Well, no, well, yeah, he is a huge influence on so many people after that.
Yes,
He was, like you said, maybe he wasn't the first, but he's right up there with the legends that
yes.
started this, at least made it popular.
Yes, indeed,
And
and actually, of course, Mr. Zombie even acknowledged Mr. Cooper's influence, and yeah, how much he admired Mr. Cooper.
you're gonna laugh at this because I like all the songs you mentioned, but I think my favorite Alice Cooper song is "Only Women Bleed." It's
Oh
such a
yes,
great song. It's one
definitely.
of his more mellow ones, but
Yes.
such a powerful song. And speaking of Mr. Zombie, I love his music. I actually, I mean, it's not that much different, but I love White Zombie. That's
Oh
when I
yes.
saw them. I saw them at Toad's Place, the show where he met his wife, because
Oh, very nice.
she's from Connecticut,
How
where
about
I'm
that?
from, and they met at Toad's Place. And I know that from what I was reading, they met at the show, one of the White Zombie shows, and that was where they were opening up
Oh,
for Slayer at the time. Such a phenomenal show.
ooh,
Yeah, that
very
was a
nice. Yes. So I never had the chance to see White Zombie live, but this was my second time seeing Rob Zombie. That was funny. The first time I saw Mr. Zombie was a double feature with Marilyn Manson. This time around, it was a double feature with Alice Cooper, or double headliner, I guess, with Alice Cooper. So not too bad, not too bad. But as I said, I got Mr. Zombie to autograph several of my albums. Plus, I have the box set. Like a few years ago, they released a White Zombie box set of including some of their older albums from the 80s where it had been out of print for decades. So it was so nice getting that box set that had all their old obscure albums, plus had like a booklet explaining their story and whatnot. So very cool. I got him to autograph that. That was pretty nice.
that is really nice. Speaking of Rob Zombie in movies, are you a fan of his movies as well as his music?
Let's see. I've seen House of a Thousand Corpses and his version of the Monsters, but I amazingly have not seen any of his other movies. So, oh God, maybe at some point I'll watch The Devil's Rejects, and I suppose at some point I'll get around to watching his two Halloween movies at some point, maybe.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, I've seen them all. Don't bother with the Halloweens
Oh,
because
really? You don't think so?
the original Halloweens are the best. The new one, here's the main reason I don't like it. With John Carpenter's Halloween, it's basically he's the boogeyman. You can't kill him. That's it. With Rob Zombie, he has his whole backstory how Michael Myers had a horrible childhood, and then in the second one, it's this big dream sequence with his wife. I'm in the middle of it. What the hell is going on? So it didn't really make a lot of sense for me. Devil's Rejects is his all-time best,
Uh,
and then Three from Hell is good, and 31 is good. So like, there's a couple, and Lords of Salem is good. Those are the ones I would check
oh,
out first.
okay, not bad. And it's funny since you mentioned Michael Myers like that. In the first several Halloween movies, Michael Myers is just an ordinary human. He never speaks, and you hardly ever see his face underneath the mask, except like you get a brief glimpse of his face under the mask in the first movie, and that's it. But he's an ordinary human, but he's so timid, which makes him more realistic. It wasn't like later on in the series. I guess there was some supernatural element involved. I guess there's some supernatural elements, but that kind of rules. Like same thing with Friday the 13th. For the first several Friday the 13th movies, Jason Voorhees just an ordinary human. He's like super strong. He's like he never speaks. He's like quiet and menacing and very very strong and durable, but he's still human. Like later on, like several movies in, like suddenly he's an undead zombie who you literally can't kill, which again ruins it. At least it's how I see it.
No, I agree. Both those movies, and even Freddy Krueger became a character of themselves. The first ones of all three of them were great, and actually, in the first Jason Friday the 13th, it was his mother was the killer, and that's
Yes,
Betsy Palmer, and I thought that
that,
she was
yes,
great.
that actually was pretty good. I like that. That really makes yeah. Jason himself didn't appear till the second movie. It wasn't until the third movie that he got his iconic hockey mask. So when they did a remake a few years back of Friday the 13th, a brand new one on his mother appears in flashback. That's it. It's Jason doing the killing. So yeah, and it was funny. I just thought, given since we mentioned Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger has only about 7 minutes of screen time in the original movie, which again makes it more menacing. Same thing like in the original Jaws, the shark has only doesn't have that much screen time. In the original Alien, the creature, the xenomorph, has only a few minutes of screen time. Makes it more terrifying, you know.
Exactly. And I always say, when I was at Connecticut School of Broadcasting, they always said less is more. The
Exactly.
less you do, the more impact it's going to have. And I think that's
Nice.
exactly what it was with movies. In Jaws, I'm sure everybody knows by now the reason that the shark was supposed to be in the movie a lot more, but the shark wasn't working, so they had to shoot around it. And Steven Spielberg's biggest influence back then was Alfred Hitchcock. So Alfred Hitchcock had the same type of, you see more of the reaction of the people than what's actually going on. And then your imagination is so much more than what the
Exactly.
screen can show. So that's exactly why Jaws, and I agree with you in some of these other movies, when you don't see it as much, it's more terrifying and it's scarier, and
Yep.
I love it.
Oh yeah, same thing with most versions of Dracula too. Like
Yeah.
I see like in the 1959 Christopher Lee Dracula, Christopher Lee's first appearance, he doesn't have that much screen time. He has only a few lines. And the same thing like in I can't remember the Bela Lugosi Dracula how much screen time he has, but and then or in like I mean since you mentioned Nosferatu, I was thinking I mean obviously I mean at this point movies have had sound longer than they were silent, which is all good. Obviously the transition from silent to talking films was good and all, but at the same time, the one thing I liked about silent films is that being that there's no dialogue, the audience has to fill in the blanks with their imagination. So.
Yes, I agree with that. So who is your favorite Dracula?
Oh, that's a tough choice. Well, of course, I mean, Bela Lugosi is probably one of the best and most individual thinners. It's between Bela Lugosi and Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
Nothing against the others. I mean, Gary Oldman did a pretty good Dracula too. Gary Oldman was a radically different take on Dracula from all the previous actors. He was pretty good. But no, yeah, for me, it's between Bela Lugosi or Christopher Lee. I honestly, yeah, it's got to be one of those two would be are probably my top Dracula. Oh, by pure coincidence, let's see now, Nosferatu was released in 1922, the same year Christopher Lee was born. Just a coincidence, of course.
Yeah, wow. I love Nosferatu. Well, actually, speaking of I'll go back to that in a second. My favorite Dracula is exactly what you just said because I grew up myself watching Christopher Lee on the old Hammer movies, but my father loved Bela Lugosi, so I would
Right.
watch those movies. So those sorts, but then again, you mentioned Gary Oldman does a great job. Frank Langella does a great job. There's so many other people that do a good Dracula, but if you had to pick, because I think Christopher Lee was the most terrifying with the bloodshot eyes and it was in color
Oh,
and the
yes.
blood. But Bela Lugosi had style and it was just the way he was. He was just with that, he was from was he Hungarian, I think. He had that cool
Yes.
accent. Just it was a
Yes.
and it was different types of movies, different type of Draculas, but those
Yes.
are my two
Exactly.
favorites too.
Yes. I never saw the Frank Langella one, so I can't comment on that one yet. And was it? But although Bela Lugosi, unfortunately, his role as Dracula limited and basically almost well, he tried to stretch and grow as an actor, but too often he was pigeonholed due to because of that. Unfortunately, that was his most famous role, but at the same time, it proved to be a bane, a curse to him because it limited what he could do, which was very sad.
Yeah, and then I'm sure you know the whole story about Ed Wood, the guy who did Plan 9 from Outer Space, was such a huge fan. By that time, he was a drug addict. So Ed Wood wanted to put him in movies because nobody else would put him in movies. So he was actually
And yes,
The one director that still had faith in him at that time. I'm
yes,
so
and
glad.
that was actually Bela Lugosi's final film appearance. And actually, the thing is, though, he actually died in the middle of filming. So for his scenes, they
Yep.
had to use another actor covering his face all the time. And you can even tell, even if you look closely, you can see it's not Bela Lugosi. That's why his face was always concealed. So, yes, yes.
Well, you can correct me if I'm wrong. From what I heard and from what I remember, maybe I'm remembering incorrectly, but I thought it was his chiropractor or somebody's chiropractor.
I
And
have no idea. I'll have to look it up. I'm actually not certain about that. I can always do some research on the matter. But oh, since we mentioned Nosferatu, there was a remake of Nosferatu in 1979. Haven't watched it yet. I plan to. And there's another remake of Nosferatu coming out in December.
I wanted to mention that one. I never saw the '79 version, but I want to check that out. But I'm also looking forward to the newest remake and something that's not really similar to Nosferatu, but the way the vampire looks. The original Salem's Lot. Were you a fan of that, Stephen King?
I unfortunately have not read the book or seen the movie. I probably should at some point. I've read a few of his books, seen a number of the movies, but I'm not a huge fan, Stephen. I mean, I like Stephen King, but I'm not like well versed in his universe.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked is because on HBO Max, they just came out with another remake of Salem's Lot. I was wanting to know if you had a chance to see it yet and how good it
I'm
was.
sorry. No. All I know about that movie is that the vampire in that one was inspired by Count Orlok rather than Dracula. Oh, but one other thing though. So one thing I do like, as in too many of those old movies, they always use a cross to repel vampires, which I mean, because vampires are evil, unholy beings, but they got a little bit too creative in the Hammer horror movies, like a shadow on the wall or somebody draws a cross in blood. No, I don't buy that. No, you can't just cross any two objects and make a cross. No, because that implies it's the symbol, right? No, what Salem's Lot, I like what Salem's Lot did. What Salem's Lot did is that it's the power of your faith, not the symbol itself. Like the hero in Salem's Lot tries to use the cross to repel the vampire, but then his faith wavers and the cross loses power. So that's how you should do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. See, I told you, I love your knowledge,
Yes,
and
thank
even
you.
if you didn't see the movie, we can have a 4 hour conversation on just something you never saw. So that's very impressive. I forgot all about Count Orlok. Now you can refresh my memory on this. What exactly is Count Orlok? Was he? Yeah,
I don't know. They purposely keep his origins a mystery, but the movie Nosferatu is an unauthorized adaptation of Dracula.
yeah.
So when the movie was released, Bram Stoker's widow sued the film studio as she won the case, and the judge ordered all copies of the movie to be destroyed. But thankfully, they did not destroy all copies, and that's a good thing because that movie is now a classic. It's probably one of the earliest surviving horror films, and yet its influence is immeasurable. I mean, Bela Lugosi's Dracula is better known, but Count Orlok is just as influential in his own way. But I think they briefly mentioned that Count Orlok is like the spawn of the devil or something like that. But like, they're purposefully mysterious about his origins.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned too is like with silent movies. I mean, I think music is the most powerful part of the movie. And with silent movies, the movie is so in the forefront. And it's just like as you mentioned, we mentioned off the air, you saw Nosferatu with one organist for a whole hour and a half, no break at all. And
Yes.
I've seen a couple movies like that. I saw The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. I saw
Oh
Nosferatu.
yes.
I saw a Buster Keaton movie, and with the movie, silent movie with the one person orchestra playing the entire soundtrack, and that was so powerful. And that's why I love silent movies even still. I don't care if people talk about technology and how everything could be better. I go back to the classics and still say this is just as good back now as it was back then.
Right. I wonder what happened I wonder if somebody has ever tried. I wonder if someone would ever try to attempt to make a silent movie today. Although, actually, no, Mel Brooks in the '70s, Mel Brooks made a movie called Silent Movie. I haven't seen it, so I probably should just for the novelty of it. So,
Well, this wasn't. I saw that, and that's a great movie. And he is great at recreating the genre back then because he did Young
Young
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein, yes. And
Yes.
what's funny is it's a pretty good homage. Actually, I mean, it does have a little bit of humor in it, but it matches the atmosphere very well. It came out in the '70s, but you'd swear it came out. You could swear it came out in the '30s or '40s because of how well he duplicates the tone of the movies from that era. It's pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. Well, speaking of movies,
Oh,
the reason I
yes.
wanted to have you on this show is we were going to talk about Halloween 3, Season of
Yes.
the Witch. And when's the first time you saw this movie?
Actually, I oh God, when did I watch it? It might have been earlier this year, or maybe it might have been, it was either last year around Halloween time or earlier. I don't remember. I've seen just once. I watched it not all that long ago, mainly because I wanted to see what I wanted to see just how it was different from all the others and whether it was what how if it was good or if it was bad or what. Because yeah, I'd heard I don't know, some people don't like it, but other people do like it. I mean, but for the same reason, like some people dislike it because it has no connection to yours. Other people do like it for that very reason, and I liked it. I enjoy it very much. I liked it as a standalone film, and I thought it was quite suspenseful and everything. And I very much liked Halloween 3 actually. So I did some research, and the reason why Halloween 3 is so different from all the other movies, why there's no connection to any of their films, is because John Carpenter felt that the story of Michael Myers had reached a satisfactory conclusion after Halloween 2, and he felt that any further attempts to continue the story would just be repetitive, which of course is what happened in actuality. But he felt there was no need to just keep he didn't want to just drag it out endless sequel after sequel. So his plan was that from that point forward, Halloween would be an anthology series. Every film would be its own self-contained story set on Halloween. And I think that would have been a brilliant idea, to be perfectly frank. So we might never get to see it. But actually, no, Halloween Ends came out not that long ago. So I mean, now that Halloween Ends has come and gone, I maybe John Carter will still want to re-implement his original idea. You never know. But I enjoyed Halloween 3. I say it was very suspenseful. I liked it. So I liked the idea very much. I think everything about it was pretty cool. And there were just a few supernatural elements which I think were out of place. Like we really did not at all need the entire Stonehenge subplot. That just felt out of place. Just if we cut out the whole Stonehenge subplot, it'd be so much better. And plus the way like those masks with the masks, the way the masks kill people is it turned your head into like a bunch of bugs and insects, which I don't get it. What I would have had to do was like the masks would have either exploded or electrocuted the people to death or poisoned or something like that. Some realistic. I mean, yeah. Other than that little supernatural element there with the Stonehenge plot, it was pretty realistic actually. So yeah, I think that would have made more sense. Yeah, they should. Yeah. So I don't know how plausible that plot is, but yeah, I liked it. As I said, it was suspenseful and terrifying because of how mostly realistic it was. That something like that could happen in actuality.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and you are 1,000% correct because I did my research too, and because you made a comment to me the last time, you're like, "This is why he did Halloween 3," and you are right. But I remember seeing this in the theaters. I was 14 years old when it came out, and for some reason, I don't remember ever wondering, "Oh, where's Michael Myers?" I know a lot of people were angry. "Oh my God, this is Halloween 3. It's supposed to be Michael Myers." I loved the movie for what it was. I loved the design, and doing my research, I never knew this. The original director was Joe Dante.
Oh,
He
really?
he did the movie The Howling. He did the movie Gremlins,
Ah,
and so he just came off of The Howling. And John Carpenter's like, "Well, I'll produce it. I'll help write it at first, but no, I'll produce it." That's originally what he wanted to do, and I'll have you direct it. But then what happened was Steven Spielberg and Joe Landon said, "Well, we're making Twilight Zone the movie. I'd love to have you do a segment." So he went to Twilight Zone the movie because this wasn't set in stone yet, and the other one was. But the reason that it has that whole supernatural plot is I never saw the show. Did you ever hear the show Quatermass?
no, I'm sorry. I,
No.
I, I don't think so. Why?
Well, no, me neither. But I guess the writer of Quatermass is a British writer, and he loves psychological movies. He loves the supernatural, and his name is Nigel Keel. No, sorry, Nigel Neal, Kneale. And Joe Dante wanted him to write that. So he wrote it, and Dino De Laurentiis, who was producing the movie, his studio, said, "No, we want more blood, we want more guts, we want more gore." And the writer said, "No, I don't want to be part of that." So what happened was John Carpenter rewrote that to make Dino De Laurentiis happy, but then Tommy Lee Wallace, who was the editor in the original Halloween, was taking over the directing job when Joe Dante left. Said he rewrote it again. So Nigel said, "Take my name off completely." But most of his script, all the supernatural parts were Dan, what's his name? Cochran is his name in the movie. Dan O'Leary, I think his name is, but however it's pronounced. He's a warlock. and all that was
Oh, you're talking about the main villain of the movie?
yeah Cochran. Was it
Oh,
Conan
yes.
Cochran? I think his name was Dan O'Hurley is his real
Oh,
name.
he's like the CEO of Silver Shamrock.
Yeah, yeah. So he was a warlock, and and as you mentioned, Stonehenge, where he gets his powers from Stonehenge, and he wants to destroy for some. They never really get into why he wants to kill all the kids, but they takes the power from Stonehenge, puts the little chip in the back of the silver Shamrock mask, and as you said, when you put them on and you watch the commercial at the same time, snakes come out, crickets come out. I mean, everything. Your head just implodes and they never really explain why, but they said that 60% of Nigel Neal's script was left in, and that's all the supernatural part. That's why that was really in there. But all the gore, which people were expecting, was more from John Carpenter and Tommy
Oh,
Lee Wallace.
I see. Interesting. And I mean, so Halloween 3 has no connection to the other Halloween films, but actually, if you look quickly, you can actually see a clip from Halloween 1 playing on a television screen in a bar in Halloween 3. And not only that, later on in the 20 in I think in the 2018 Halloween film, you can hear the Silver Shamrock jingle actually in a brief scene as well. So a little Easter egg thrown out there.
There's actually one more Easter egg, which I did not know until probably about an hour ago. I was watching another documentary. The part where the woman is over the speaker saying curfew, everybody in town Santa Mara has got to be inside. There's a curfew. That is the voice of Jamie Lee Curtis.
Which movie is this now?
Halloween 3.
Oh yes, when they're like the company town.
Yes.
Oh, I did not know that either. How about
No.
that?
Yeah. And they said, and you mentioned when he's in the bar drinking, you see the commercial for the night he came home, and they showed Michael Myers walking down the stairs with the knife. But then there's one more or there another Easter egg. The part when he's tied up and he finally gets cut loose and he throws the mask over the camera, and you see the two eyes through the camera. They were
Yeah.
paying homage to the first Halloween when young Michael Myers killed his sister.
Oh yes, and you see his view through the mask. Ah,
Yeah.
that's
So they were
right.
doing that.
Okay, not too bad. Mm.
Do you know where they got the title from? That was the first Halloween movie to have a subtitle at the bottom.
No, well, I know there's a song back in the '60s called "Season of the Witch," but I don't know if there's any connection to Halloween 3 or not. And then I think there was also a movie called "Season of the Witch,"
Yeah.
but again, I don't know if there's a connection or not.
Yeah, the connection is you were correct on the second one. George A. Romero, who did Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead,
Mm.
Day of the Dead, he came out with a movie in 1972 called Season of the Witch, which I saw.
Oh,
It was a really good movie. It was originally called Hungry Wives, I think. I, I,
oh,
I have it on VHS somewhere, but they took that title from there, even though it really has nothing to do with, I mean, Cochran's a warlock, but there's really no witches in it. I guess they just thought it sounded cool.
right, yes,
It was
definitely.
originally Tommy Lee Wallace, the director, and he was also the sole creditor as writer. He wanted it just to be called Season of the Witch, from what they were saying. He didn't even want Halloween 3 attached to it, but
Um,
the studios were saying, come on, the first two Halloweens were so popular, so at least keep the title, even though they really didn't want anything to do with it. I think that's where, unfortunately, there was a lot of confusion with people going to the theater. But again, like I said, I mean, I was 14 years old. I knew the original Halloweens. I never once said, where's Michael Myers? Where's Laurie Strode? Where's Loomis? I really could care less. I enjoyed the movie for what it was. And
oh, that's
like you
good.
said, I mean, there's a lot that was implausible, but it was just a fun movie.
Yes, I liked it very much. Yes, and I guess as we're talking about Halloween, I don't know if we mentioned this last time, but like the Halloween franchise is almost like a choose your own adventure book. There are three different branches of the story, actually. So, like, as originally, let's see now. Okay, so since Halloween 3 is its own story, let me see now. So Halloween 4 picks up where number 2 is. Also, I think Halloween 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 follow a story, their own storyline. Then many years after Halloween 6, many years later, we had Halloween H2O. Oh my God, what was with that name anywhere? 20 years later, Halloween H2O picks up from Halloween 2, and then Halloween Resurrections, the sequel. So that's the second branch.
Yes.
And then finally, then we have the third branch is the 2018 Halloween picks up from the original, ignores all the other films, even ignores number 2, and picks up just from the original. Then we have Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. So yeah, as I said, three different branches of the storyline. It's kind of ridiculous, actually. But what's funny is like in the first two branches, they have in Halloween 2, it's revealed that Laurie Strode is actually Michael Myers' sister, even though after having watched the movie, that twist kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, it became part of the story. Even in Rob Zombie's films, Laurie Strode is Michael Myers' sister too. But everyone forget. But yeah, but it's like so. The first two branches have that storyline, but then the third branch completely discards it because they even mention at the beginning of at the beginning of Halloween 2018, we hear someone say, "Hey, someone wait a minute, someone asks like Laurie's granddaughter. He said, "Hey, isn't Mike Myers your grandmother's brother or something?" And she says, "No, that's just something they made up." Or so they're like they're poking a jab at them there. But yeah, because I mean, because like the twist does kind of come out of nowhere because there was nothing at all in the first movie to hint they were related. Kind of like, oh, just briefly, like in Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, it totally comes out of left field that Luke and Leia are siblings. There was nothing like we had some foreshadowing that Darth Vader was Luke's father in the first movie. There's some nice foreshadowing there, but however, there was absolutely no foreshadowing whatsoever that Luke and Leia were related. And that's because you see, this is just what I read now. George Lucas has been famously inconsistent about what his plans were for Star Wars. He changed his mind a lot, and I don't know nothing. I don't know if I want to hold that against him because that happens. Sometimes people change their minds. That happens.
Yeah.
But so I remember this is just what I read now. I don't know if George Lucas ever confirmed this, but I read that Luke's sister was supposed to be a completely different character from Leia. But then George Lucas was planning to have more films. But when George Lucas decided to wrap it up as a trilogy, he realized there was no room to introduce a new character. So he made Leia Luke's sister because there just wasn't time to introduce a new character with it being only a trilogy. So yeah, you never know. But I mean, now that's been like 40 or 50 years later. I mean, we've all got accustomed to Luke and Leia being siblings, but still, when the film first came out, it was probably it probably made no sense. But yeah, it's been decades.
Yeah. Well, I think what you said last is correct, and I'll tell you why. Because I saw an interview with Mark Hamill, and if you watch Star Trek, I'm sorry, Star Trek, Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, where Han Solo and Luke are vying for the love of Leia. Elson, she gives Luke a big kiss, and he's like, laying back like this.
Oh, that was Episode 5, actually.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's Episode 5. So anyway, when he does that, and then like afterwards, when Mark Hamill was saying when he read the script when they found out that was his sister, he's, oh my God, that's disgusting. And he was saying in an interview I saw that George Lucas had no idea at the time that he was going to do that. So I think what you just said is correct. Like, I know what you said, he's been very inconsistent in the stories, but that sounds the most plausible, where he had no idea and it's like, all right, let's just make Leia his sister.
Yes.
But I think at first I was wondering, I'm guessing that Halloween took that page from the Star Wars book, but I think it's stupid.
Maybe. Oh, wait. What year did Halloween 2 come out?
1981.
Okay, no. Return of the Jedi was 83. So actually, Halloween did it first,
Oh,
actually.
wow. Okay.
Yeah,
No,
I
you know
know.
what? I didn't even think of that. It's been so long. Like you said, it's been decades. I completely forgot that came out first. All right, I take that back.
Oh.
What's your favorite Halloween?
Oh, I haven't seen all of them. I've seen Halloween 1, 2, and 3, and the 2018 one. So, to be pretty honest, I don't know. It's either between 1 or 3 is my favorite. I can't. I mean, Halloween 1 is the original, obviously, but as I said, I like Halloween 3 because it's a standalone film. Because I just like Halloween 3 because it's so suspenseful. There's the blood and violence are kept to a bare minimum in that film, and it's very suspenseful. There's all the terror comes from the suspense and the mystery.
Yep.
And
Another
the
thing.
atmosphere of paranoia. It's very similar. Like, Halloween 3 is very similar to the original Alien, the 1982 Thing, and the 1978 Invasion of the Body Snatchers. All of them share an atmosphere of paranoia. Like, you don't know what's going on. You don't know who you can trust or when or where the monster is going to strike. That's what I like about all those films.
Well, I'm glad you brought that. It was a great segue because I'm sure you already know this. Halloween 3 pays homage to the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
It's the 50s version, you mean?
Yes,
Okay.
and in Santa Mara is the name of the town in the Halloween 3. That's the same name of the town Invasion of Body Snatchers.
Oh.
And I don't know if you know did you ever see the original or did you see the 1978?
I've seen both versions. Actually, no. There have been four. There have been
Yeah.
4 movies of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I've seen the first 2. Haven't seen the other 2, but I saw the original one, the 50s, and the one, the 70s. Both are excellent.
Yeah, I agree. And I love
Definitely.
both movies for different reasons. But in the original, I can't remember what his name is. Something Siegel, I think. Don Siegel. I could be wrong, but whatever. At the end, he's running down the street. You're next. You're next. You're next. And that's where it was supposed to end. But the studio said there's no way we can end the movie on a down note like that, where everybody you don't know if the world is going to end and they're going to be all pod people. So they did a little epilogue at the end to show that he's in the hospital and everything's all right.
Yes.
So Tommy Lee Wallace said, I want to pay homage to that. And then they have Tom Atkins at the end, turn it off. When he's
Yes,
turning it off the TV.
exactly.
And so they ended it and they were paying homage to that. And the studio hated that ending for the same reason they hated the ending for Invasion of Bystanders.
Ah,
But luckily, John Carpenter was the producer and he had final say. So he told Tommy Lee Wallace, he goes, you go with the ending you want to go with. Don't worry about it. And I'm so glad they did because they ended it on the down note. And from what Tom Atkins said, who played the main character, he was
I don't know
the
his name.
protagonist. Chalice was his name. Something. It was Dr. Chalice.
Yes.
We'll talk about him in a minute. 'Cause I met this guy and I love the movies he's been in. He is hilarious in all the movies.
Okay.
But he said that they filmed several different endings. So until when he went to the movies, the premiere to see it, he didn't even know which ending they were going to show.
Like Clue.
Yes, exactly. Which is funny because I just saw that movie for the first time maybe about 2 months ago.
Really?
Yeah, I never saw that before. I
Oh,
loved it.
wow.
I saw the play and I said, I got to check out the movie because the movie's got such a phenomenal cast.
Yes.
And I said, definitely did not disappoint. So with Clue, they did the same thing. They filmed several different endings, so nobody knew.
Exactly. As well, all home releases of Clue have all three endings, but yes. So
Yep.
that's not too bad. But interesting. I mean, have any details ever come out about the other endings of Halloween 3 or not?
Not that I could find, but I'm going to do my research on that
Oh,
because
yes.
I saw several documentaries and they were talking about that, and
Oh,
it was from the actor saying it himself, but he never said what the endings were. I'm
ah,
guessing. I'm just guessing, similar to what happened in Invasion of Bystanders, they probably filmed a happier ending where
right.
he does stop it, which I kind of think is funny because we talked about being plausible. There's he can't. I mean, there's what, 6 different time zones. He can't call every time zone, every television station to tell them to turn it off. But it still
Right.
made for a great ending. It
Yes,
was a lot
definitely.
of fun.
Although, the 1978 version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers has a pretty dark downer ending, actually. But although I'll see, well, have you seen both? Have you seen both versions of The Thing?
Yes, I
Okay, because
love both versions.
well, I mean, okay, well, I mean, well, obviously the 51 version ends. I mean, how to say it? The 51 version ends. The creature's destroyed at the end of the 51 version, but it ends with a person making a broadcast saying, "Watch the skies."
Yes.
So it's kind of a suspense. I mean, it's not like a dark ending, but it's a very suspenseful ending. It's like, and obviously, I mean, the 1982 version of the Thing just ends with the last two guys sitting in the darkness as the base burns down. We don't know what happens after that. So yes.
Yes.
No, oh yeah, no, John Carver's amazing. I've seen many of his movies. He is so good at making suspenseful movies.
Yep. No, I mean, I cannot think of, I've seen every single thing he's done from
Oh,
Big
really?
Trouble in Little China to The Thing. I saw it in Precinct 13, Prince of Darkness starring Alice Cooper. That was a great movie.
Oh, yes. Well, Alice Cooper makes just a cameo in that movie, but
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, exactly. But still, he even in a cameo, he still makes it. He's a huge
Yes.
presence. Kills the guy with the bicycle. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I cannot think of one movie. There's obviously some that I like better than others. In the Mouth of Madness was another great one.
Yes.
We one of these times we have to do a whole John Carpenter
The
night.
Fog. The
The
Fog
Fog.
was a good one too. Yes, I'm thinking of well, there's a film studio called Shout Factory they've been doing reissues all over. They've reissued almost every John Carpenter film. I even one time I wrote to them and said you should do a John Carpenter box set. So don't know if they'll ever do that or not, but yeah, I'd love a John Carpenter box set would be something.
I'd probably have every movie independently, but I would buy that. So I
Yes,
love that idea.
definitely.
And it's funny that you said Shout Factory because on YouTube when I was watching documentaries for Halloween 3, it seems like somebody took the documentaries from the Shout Factory DVDs and put them on YouTube, and that's what I was
Oh,
watching. And it was very interesting.
okay,
But I mentioned Tom Atkins who played Dr. Chalice, and
okay.
I don't know, and I love and he always plays the guy like after all he's got to do is say hi, and then next thing you know he's like in bed with the woman in The Fog with Jamie Lee Curtis. He picks up the hitchhiker. She's a hitchhiker. How are you
Oh,
doing? And that's why that's like always the big joke with Tom Atkins in all his movies. And then this movie was funny. when he meets the girl because her father was killed in the beginning,
Yes.
and he goes, "Well, where do you want to sleep?" Well, that's a dumb question. And then next thing you know, I love it. He's just
Oh,
like he plays that same character, but he plays it so well. He's like they call him the B movie badass.
oh, nice, nice. So wait, Tom Atkins was in The Fog.
Yeah,
Oh, I've seen that movie only once. I'll have to watch it again and keep an eye out for him.
yeah, I love that movie. And of course, Adrienne Barbeau, the one who played the DJ, that was John Carpenter's wife at the
Oh, I
time.
did not know it. I know, well, I know her because she was Catwoman in Batman the Animated Series. That's how I know her name. Mm,
Yeah, I interviewed her. If you go back to my show and you see she is such a great
good,
person,
good.
and
Oh,
she's been in tons of stuff.
good. Oh, since we're talking about John Carpenter, I think this was John Carpenter film. Did you see They Live?
Yes, Roddy Piper.
Is that a
Love that
John
movie.
Carpenter film?
Yes.
Okay, good. That movie was a scathing satire of corporate consumer culture in the 80s, and frankly, it still holds up today, to be totally honest. Mm.
Yeah. No, I love it, and it was done. My favorite line is like, "I've come here for two reasons: to chew
Chew
bu-"
bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. That yes, that's a good line. Although, of course, what's funny is when people see him, I mean, he's making no effort to conceal the shotgun he's holding in his hands, and people look at him nervously, but they don't panic. So, I mean, nowadays, if somebody walks into a bank with a shotgun, everyone would immediately drop to the floor. So, boy, how times change. Mm.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the as you mentioned, it's a great satire. It's all about consumerism and and it's great. And if people who have not seen it yet, go right after you're done watching this
Yes.
show, go rent that
Yes,
movie or
I
stream
know.
it,
And
whatever you
was
want.
it Keith David? Isn't that movie? Like
Yes.
Keith David, he was in Dale. He was also in the 1982 version of Thing. And well, I know him as the voice of Goliath in Gargoyles. He has a deep, powerful, menacing voice. But yes, he was in two John Carpenter films. I don't know if he was in any others, but he was in those two anyway.
I have to say, well, getting back to Halloween 3, John Carpenter is very loyal to his friend. Like Deborah Hill, who he was dating at first before he met Adrienne Barbeau, they produced the movie, but they have a lot of the same people behind the scenes. Like I mentioned, Tommy Lee Wallace was the editor for Halloween. He became the director. He also was one of the Michael Myers that was in the closet where she stabs him in the eye with
Ah,
the
I don't remember.
it's clothes hanger.
Okay.
Yeah, but she stabbed him in the eye with that. He played, but then actually there's another homage to Halloween where Dick Warlock, who played Michael Myers in part two, he
Yes.
is one of the androids, one of the robots that's killed by Tom Atkins in Halloween 3.
Oh, not bad.
There's a lot of crossovers.
Yes.
John Carpenter
No,
does a lot of that.
oh, is that actor Dick Warlock was the stunt double for somebody famous? I forget which. In some big movie, he was somebody's stunt double. I can't remember if he might have been Harrison Ford's stunt double. He was somebody's stunt double in some big movie. I forget which one. I'll have to look it up later.
Well, yeah, and that's what he was in Halloween as well. He's a stuntman, but they said, well, because you're gonna be doing a lot of stunts, might as well just put the mask on and play the part. So that's how he
Sounds
was a
cool.
stuntman in part one, and then became Michael Myers in part two, and I love that.
Cool.
So there is a lot of crossovers. So Keith David probably did play in other movies. I can't think of it off the bat, but I know probably some of the later. You know what's so sad about John Carpenter is like, the thing. I mean, right now it's a cult classic. People love it, but when the movie came out, it bombed at the box office
Yes.
because E.T. was released the same year. So it's like good alien versus bad alien.
Yes, yes, Peel wanted the friendlier one. I suppose I understand, but I mean, E.T. is a classic on its own. Let's not detract from how great a movie E.T. is, obviously. But yes, I like the thing. Let's see, I forget what age I was when I saw a thing, but I was an adult, so of course I saw the original Alien when I was a kid. It frightened me because of course it was supposed to. I was actually afraid to go to bed that night, but of course I got better. But so I was an adult by the time I saw the '82 version of the thing. I was an adult, so at that point, it's not you can't get once you reach a certain age, you can't get scared as easily. But okay. I'm 37 now. I was in my 20s when I saw the '82 version of the Thing. But actually, so the 1982 version of the Thing was the first movie in many years that genuinely frightened me. I was actually I was like very nervous. I purposely turned off all the lights when I watched the movie and watched it alone. Nobody else was with me. I watched it. I purposely made the atmosphere around me as dark and as scary as possible. So yes, so that was the first movie in many years where I actually really felt suspenseful, and I was actually afraid to go to sleep that night. But of course, I got over. As I said, it's pretty. Once you reach a certain age, it's hard to feel. It's hard to get frightened, at least by certain movies. I want to keep this very, very brief. So you mentioned Stephen King earlier. I've seen many of his movies, read many of his books. They're all disturbing on some level. Of course, they're all dark, creepy, disturbing, but the most disturbing one was Misery because of
Yes.
how realistic it is. I cannot watch the movie again. I saw the movie once, and no, you could not pay me to watch that movie a second time. It was that disturbing. Like Kathy Bates was just that good in her role. She was that good that I cannot bring myself to watch that movie a second time.
Yeah, well, you know why? It's because that movie is so realistic and it could really
Exactly.
happen to you. There's a crazy woman, crazy fan kidnaps you and keeps you locked up in a room. And the one scene that always gets me, because in the book, she takes an axe and cuts his leg off, his foot off.
Oh,
But in the movie was even more intense because she has a sledgehammer.
oh,
So that scene was
oh
like,
God.
oh, I have to. That's the
Oh,
face I
man.
make every time she does that.
Yeah, no, no, no. Yeah, I cannot bring myself to watch that movie again. So, oh, let's see, Brett John Cover, where it's 4:50. I can't stay around much longer, but
Okay.
with John Cover, briefly on John Cover, like The Thing, Prince of Darkness, and In the Mouth of Madness are sometimes called the Apocalypse trilogy because
Yep.
there's no connection. The movies have no connection at all. The only thing they have in common is that each movie involves a potentially world-ending threat. And thankfully, it is stopped each time, but still, at what cost? I mean, well, no, each one of them, they all end pretty suspenseful. You mean you're not entirely certain whether or not the threat actually was stopped. So yeah, that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, no, I love those movies. And what the reason I brought up the thing was it bombed initially.
Oh
And
yes.
what no, but what killed, I mean, it's a cult classic. People love it now. But that killed John Carpenter's passion for making movies. You can watch interviews, and I've seen them.
Oh
You know,
really?
"Dad, I'm just making movies to make money. I really don't care anymore." Like
Oh
he
ouch.
put his whole heart and passion and his everything into it.
I'm sorry to
This
hear
was the
that.
movie that was gonna make him big, and then it bombed, and he was just so crushed
Ouch.
from that.
I'm
But
sorry to hear.
luckily,
Is he still making? He's still alive, right?
oh yeah, he's still alive, and he's still. Last I heard, which I want to talk about really quick. I know you have to go. He was doing because when I interviewed Adrienne Barbeau, his ex-wife, he was doing the son they had together. His name Cody, and he and his son were going playing the music because he does all the music for the movies,
Nice.
and they were having the screen behind him. And he did it in Boston. I'm so mad. A couple years ago, I was gonna go see him in Boston, but yes, I know he was doing that. I'm not sure if he's making any movie. I think he's producing some movies now, but I haven't seen him direct anything in a long
Ah,
time or write anything. But he's a talent, and nothing will ever take away from all the movies he's done in the
exactly.
past.
Well, actually, no. I remember in the '90s, John Carter made a film called Body Bags.
Yes.
Do you remember earlier I mentioned that Halloween was supposed to be an anthology series where each movie had its own self-contained plot set in Halloween? Well, John Carter actually kind of did that with Body Bags. Body Bags, the movie, it's three horror stories in one movie, actually with only a very loose thread connecting all of them. So I guess that was almost a fulfillment of his wish, actually. But yes, it's not too bad of a movie. It'll never be on the same level as Halloween, The Fog, or The Thing, but it wasn't too bad.
I actually enjoyed it. I have it on DVD. The first story is with the girl going to get or guy going to get cigarettes at the gas station, and then
No, that's the second one. No, wait, no. Actually, no, I don't remember, but there's one guy, he's going bald, he gets
yeah,
new hair, but turns out the hair is actually living creatures digging into his scalp. Then, yes, there's the gas station one. Then the third segment has Mark Hamill in it, actually.
the
And
eye.
he gets like a new eye implant or something. So, yeah.
Yeah, what happened was he got the implant of a serial killer, eyes of a
Oh,
serial
yes.
killer. Yeah, I know. I love it. And John Carpenter, for people who don't know, was the host of the. He wrote them. And I think he directed too, but he was also the host at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I agree with you, and that's what he wanted to do. So I'm glad that he did get a chance to do what he wanted to do, and like I said, I can't think. One of these days we're gonna have to do another well, I mean, we basically did it right now, like a whole John Carpenter night of like all his movies,
Nice,
and
nice.
but the thing is, I know you have to go soon. I want to say with Halloween 3, I want to ask you your opinion on this because I mean they say it bombed. Personally, I was looking at it. It was cost $4.6 million to make. In 1982, it grossed originally $14.4 million. So it made a profit. It just didn't make the
Yes.
profit that Michael Myers made. But
Oh,
the what people are saying, and I want your opinion on this. Some people are glad that this movie bombed because if it didn't bomb, we might have never had another Michael Myers movie. Are you happy that it bombed so that we could have another Michael Myers movies? Or
That's a really good question because the only one I've seen, the only movie after Halloween 3 that I've seen is 2018 Halloween. I haven't seen 4, 5, 6, H2O, or Resurrection. I didn't even bother with Halloween Kills or Halloween Ends either, to be perfectly frank. So I that's a really good question. Uh, um I don't know. I mean, 'cause, I mean, Halloween, the 2018 Halloween wasn't bad, but it was frankly, if I don't I would not have missed if I hadn't seen it. I frankly wouldn't have missed anything, to be totally honest. So no, I would I no I much rather would have had John Carpenter's vision of it being an anthology series come true, to be totally honest, because too much of a good thing is bad, or less is more, as we both said earlier. So yes, plus I still think two movies would have been sufficient to cement Michael Myers the horror icon. At least I would like to think so.
no, I agree. It's similar to with Jaws and Jaws 2. Those are my two favorites. They didn't have to go any further. Halloween 1, Halloween 2 are great. I did see all the Halloweens, and all the ones you saw, you didn't see, never see. They're horrible. They're stupid.
Oh,
He became a character of himself, like I said before. So you saw all the good ones. I should have ended at Halloween 2. I agree. I wish Halloween
oh,
3
okay.
season of which took off. And I mean, I'm glad it's a cult classic, just like The Thing. But the last thing I want to talk about, and then we're going to end the show like we always do with you, James. We're going to do one of your classic poems. I
Thank
love your
you.
poems, and it's always a fan favorite. But
Yes,
what makes the movie, I think all his movies, is his music.
yes,
It's so, it's got these
yes.
synthesizer feel to it. It's just,
I don't. I don't remember the music for Halloween 3, but of course, the original Halloween music, of course, everybody knows that. I think they're very minimalistic, like Halloween and The Thing both have very minimalistic movies, but very suspenseful. Although I think, doesn't the theme from Halloween vaguely sound like the Exorcist theme, or
yeah.
not? Or is that just me?
No, I could definitely, there's a little similarity to Tubular Bells. I definitely could hear that.
Yes, I
But
see.
what I'm happy about is, which I told you last time, if you ever have a chance, you need to go. I mean, I would love to have you be there as a guest at Chiller Theater, but even if you don't go as a guest, go there just to have fun because I got a chance to meet Alan Howarth, who did the music with John Carpenter for all
Ooh,
his movies. I'm going to be interviewing him on November 20th. So
I forgot when and where is Chiller Fest or whatever it's called.
Chiller Theater, it's going to be it's in Parsippany, New Jersey, every April and every October. So
Okay, not
I
bad.
would definitely, they would love to have you. You would be a
Cool.
huge hit there. I
Well,
know you would. The people they
it's
have
funny you
there.
mention it because one of my friend who's been managing my convention appearances said that there's a store in New Jersey and they want me to come down for an event in March next year. So not too bad.
Yeah, well, you know what? I would check with your agent with the for conventions. Tell them about Chiller, and I mean, if that's in March, in April they're having the next Chiller. So maybe you can just like
Hmm,
make 2 months
not a
out of it.
bad
Just go there in
idea.
March and
Not a bad
yeah,
idea.
yeah. All right. Well, I hope to see
Well,
you there. And before you go, I know you have to go, but I definitely want you back on the show. Do you want? Is there another movie you want to talk about for next time?
oh, that's a really good question. Let me see. Do they need to strictly be horror related or
No,
not?
not at all. It could
Okay,
be.
well, when do you imagine you'll be able to make time in your schedule for me?
Let me see. I could do one probably by. Are you available next week?
Oh, that's a bit soon.
Okay.
I was going to wait a few months out or
Oh
something.
yeah. Well, let's do it.
Could we,
Let's do it after Thanksgiving. Let's
I
do it
was
in
gonna
the
say, could we
middle.
do a Christmas movie next time?
Yes. All right. That's perfect. This time we're gonna do it in December. I'm on vacation the week of the 12th through whatever the week is, like the 20 something.
Right.
So we'll
Okay,
do
well,
it then.
okay. Oh, so being as just I'll quickly mention that I have a whole week off of work between Christmas and New Year's Eve, so just feel I should mention that.
Okay. Well, you know what? You and I will be in touch. We'll figure out what you.
Okay.
But what movie did you want to do for Christmas?
That's a really good question. I mean, well, I love the first two Home Alones are some of my favorites, but we can think about because I have to be honest, I'm not quite as well versed in Christmas movies as I am in Halloween and horror movies, to be totally honest. So we need to give this some thought. We could always mention several Christmas movies because I don't think I know quite enough to discuss one movie for an entire episode. We can do several movies in one episode because that might be better. Or we could always talk about the Oh, did Vincent Price ever do any Christmas movies? I don't know if he did.
That if he did, I have never seen it.
I don't think he did, but or we could discuss all the Runkin Boss Christmas specials. But again,
I
I'm not
love
well
that.
versed. I'm not well versed in those. So I don't know. We'll have time to brainstorm. You can suggest a few ideas. I'll suggest a few ideas. But I would at least like to give just a brief mention to the first two Home Alones anyway. Even if we don't make the whole episode about them, I got to at least mention a few minutes on them. Yes.
Well, one last question before we go to the poem, because somebody just asked me this today, and I've heard this question asked. Do you consider Die Hard a Christmas movie?
I've seen it only once, so I mean, it's set on Christmas, but it's not your traditional Christmas movie. I mean, you could say it's a non-traditional Christmas movie, perhaps. You could say, actually, I mean, is most Christmas movies are about the spirit of Christmas and all that, but yeah, Die Hard's an action movie, so it's only as much of a Christmas. I mean, you could call it Christmas movie, but it's a very non-traditional Christmas movie. That's the best way to examine it, I
Yep.
think.
All right. No, very well said. And that's exactly what I said too to my friend who asked me that question. I'm like, I really don't consider it a Christmas movie. It was set during Christmas. But bottom line is, it's a great movie. I love it and can never take anything away from it. But I'm not sure if I consider it a Christmas movie. And that being said, we're going to see you. Well, first, we saw you for Halloween. We're going to take a break during Thanksgiving, and I'll see you around Christmas time. And we'll have another show. But what do you have to leave off this show
Oh,
with?
yes, since you asked for a poem, I specifically have a poem this poem is excellent for Christmas. No, sorry, for Halloween. Actually, so I wrote this poem back in 2015, actually, even. So I did post a video of me reading it on my Instagram account a while back. But yes, this poem would be excellent for Halloween. Halloween was 2 days ago, but that's close enough. So this poem is called Witch's Brew. No relation to the Hat Palmer song name, just a pure coincidence.
Yep.
Just a coincidence. Let me see. Uh, just give you, I'm sorry.
No, take your time.
Late at night, it's time for trouble. The fire burns and cauldron bubbles. The vapors gather and mists arise as you anxiously wait for the next surprise. The sounds of laughter infuse the night and fill your mind with dread and fright. The shadows dance in black and blue. You're in a trance. What shall I do? I'm gonna stir my witch's brew. Cook it on the fire the whole day through. I'm gonna stir my witch's brew. And when it's done, I'm gonna share it with you. Eye of newt, tongue of lizard, hair from head of witch or wizard, virgin's blood and dead man's toe, serpent's fang and beak of crow. Now you face your mortal foe. You shake with fear and scream with woe. Your time is up. I've captured you. You can't resist. What shall I do? I'm gonna stir my witch's brew. Cook it on the fire the whole day through. I'm gonna stir my witch's brew. And when it's done, I'm gonna share it with you. Close your eyes and hold your nose. Take a drink and down it goes. Feel it burn all through your veins. You tremble with pleasure and shriek with pain. Your vision blurs and your body quakes. Your bones now rattle and your mind now breaks. Demons dance inside your head. I give a glance and soon you'll be dead. Your sight goes dark and your body grows cold. Your heartbeat stops, no more to be told. Take your last breath. This is the end for you. And greet your own death. What shall I do? I'm gonna stir my witch's brew. Cook it on the fire the whole day through. I'm gonna stir my witch's brew. And when it's done, I'm gonna share it with you. What do you think of that?
Yes.
Did you like that?
You never disappoint, James. Every
Yes, thank
time
you. Thank you.
read a poem, it gets better and better. I love that.
Thank you very much.
That is right up there, maybe even better than Edgar Allan Poe. I'm telling
Oh,
you.
thank you. No, I don't want to. I don't want. Let's not get. I don't want to get a swelled head now. I wouldn't quite go that far, but thank you. I did put a lot of time, and effort into this, so
I can
yes.
tell. All right, you mentioned one time. This is really impressive. The last one you said you wrote during your lunch break. How long did this one take you to write?
I don't remember this. I wrote this one back in 2015. I wrote 9 years ago, so I honestly don't remember how long it took. Most poems take me a while. They take me a few hours or a few days to write. I don't know, but yes, yeah, you're right. I did mention there's one poem I wrote in barely a half hour. Actually, at some point I'll have to read that one at some point. I don't know when. I wrote a very dark Christmas poem, so we can say that for the next episode. But maybe in the future, at some other point, I can read the one that I wrote in like barely a half hour. So.
Yep, you're gonna have to. All right. So until then, right now it's November 2nd. I will definitely be talking to you in December. I'm talking before then. I'll give you my ideas for movies. We'll go back and forth, and we'll talk
Good,
about
good.
whatever comes to mind.
Excellent.
And James, I always have to thank you. You're one of my all-time favorite guests.
Thank
I
you very
love having
much.
you on the show. The audience loves having you on the
Good,
show,
good.
and I will definitely talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, that wraps up the latest episode of Real Talk. A special thanks goes out to James B. Jones from the smash hit Love on the Spectrum for taking time out of his extremely busy schedule to be a guest on my show. Once again, thank you very much for always coming back and having so much to say. A huge thanks also goes out to editor extraordinaire John Bristol, the award-winning Elman Productions, for always doing a superb job editing this show each and every week and making it available to all on YouTube. I am also extremely grateful to Joseph Timothy Quirk and Rob Bull for all they do to make my show available on several Connecticut radio stations, as well as Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. I also need to thank Al Coles for airing this show on a local cable station in Connecticut to help me expand my audience. And lastly, but definitely not least, I need to thank you, the viewer, for always tuning in. Enjoy your day, everyone.
Come on, suckers!
All of a sudden I hear, brim, brim. What's a diaphragm again?
Ha! We caught one.
They're supposed to be weird.
Oh, yeah, no. If you say so.
I've always wanted to be in a movie.
Waiting around for autumn, waiting around for autumn, I was watching.